boy Kiani Savage here, coming with another edition of The Real Kiani Savage. Alright, as promised, my coming out story. Okay, let's start. So, I'd say back in 2000 to 2001, I didn't come out, it was brought out, and then I came out. So long story short, I am like 11, 12 years old, and I used to write notes to girls in my class, and hey, do you like me? I like you. I have a crush. Circle the box, yes and no, etc., etc. And back in, like I said, the late 90s, early 2000s, like being lesbian, i.e. gay, whatever, it was normal. Like, for it to be 2019 now and it's so abnormal and so many people act like it was never there and it was never around, it's beyond me. But let me not get off topic. So, I write letters to girls and, kiss them on the playground and things of that nature. Now, mind you, I'm 9, 10, 11 years old. But this is what I want. I'm intrigued by girls. I like girls. They're cute. I have crushes, etc. So, I go home and it's one girl. I'm not going to say her name, but I still remember it. And I'm 31 years old later. Whatever. So, I go home. I write her this letter, and I'm using lyrics from a song and all of this, just writing her a beautiful letter, just telling her how I really feel about her. Like, we have been friends literally since we were babies because our parents, well, my grandmother and her grandmother were close friends. So, I'm writing to her like, look, I've loved you since we were little, blah, blah, blah. But mind you, I am 10, 11, maybe 12 years old. So, I go to school. Well, actually, I had wrote a rough draft. This is how you know you were in school. I wrote a rough draft, and then I wrote the original and left the rough draft under my mattress. Now, mind you, I was born, in Maryland and raised by my grandmother. So, you know how grandmothers are. Doesn't matter if you cleaned your room is never clean to their forte. So at this point, I forget that it's laundry day. So she finds the rough draft under my bed, okay? So I get home and she's kind of like sitting in her rocking chair and she's just like, my birth name is Kiana, but she's like, Kiana, I need to talk to you. So I'm like, oh crap, what did I do? Did I leave something out? Did I do and I'm thinking of everything and anything. Like, did I wash the dishes last night? Did I put the food? Like, what did I not do before leaving out of this house to go to school? So she's like, come sit down. So I'm like, okay now. So I sit down and she's like, just tell me the truth. And off breaks, I'm like, I didn't do it. You better ask Junior, it's my oldest brother. Like, I didn't do it. Like, I swear, Granny, I didn't do it. I did not do it. She's like, calm down. You did do it because I found it in your room. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So she pulls out the letter. She's like, what is this? And I'm like, it's a letter to my girlfriend. She was like, oh, so I guess she decided to be your girlfriend. So I'm like, Grandma, you read it? She was like, of course I read it. You live in my house. You don't pay no bills. And it was in your room under your bed, and I went in your room to change the sheets so I could wash, so I could wash the laundry, and I found the letter. So I'm like, I'm stuck. I don't know what to say. I'm just looking at my grandmother like this, like, okay, Grandma, I like girls. So in the calmest, most loving voice that she could ever say, she said, I knew. I was just waiting for you to tell me. I was waiting for you to accept yourself. Excuse me, guys. Best day ever. Excuse me, guys. my grandmother was my life, you know. And the fact that she's gone now, you know, only tells you that I've been through a lot in my life. But just her accepting me that day made me feel so much better about the person of who I was, the person that I was going to become, etc. Excuse me, y'all. My grandmother was my everything. And I have to say, if it wasn't for her finding that letter that day, then I probably would have been in an even bigger shell than what I was when it came down to coming out to be transgender, you know? So fast forward a few years later, mind you, I didn't want my grandmother to tell my father, because I wanted to tell him when I was ready, and I didn't want anybody to be able to tell my story to my father the way that I could, you know? So I ended up telling my father a few years later, and that caused us to not speak for a few years. Because once again, when you're absent-minded and you don't understand, and you figure, hey, you were born a female, so by the way of the world, you are supposed to like a man, you're supposed to date a man, you know, get engaged to a man, marry a man, have kids with a man, or etc. But they don't never sit back and think about, okay, well, how was her brain developed? What is her brain like? How does her heart feel, you know? And that's one thing that my dad didn't account until years later of thinking about it and, you know, doing research and understanding that it's something that happens, you know, within the DNA of that person. You know, it's not just something, oh, I wake up, oh, I want to be gay. No, it didn't happen like that. So after not talking to him for a few years, it was one Christmas, you know, my brother came and picked me up, and I didn't know where we were going, and we pulled up to my dad's house, and I'm like, dude, take me home. Like, I don't have time for this. And he's like, no, we're going to stop this now, because at the end of the day, you're still his child, period. So get out the car, and we have this whole hug, and he's like, you know, you're my baby regardless, and I'm always going to love you, whatever. And ever since then, we've had a great relationship. We've had our ups and downs, lefts and rights, because once again, he still doesn't understand some parts and some, you know, things of that. You know, I was married once before. My dad didn't come to my first wedding. So, you know, it's certain things that he still does not do because he still does not understand, and he tends to not want to understand because he's older, and that's okay. But I'm happy with who I am. I'm happy with my life, you know. Like I said, I've had more support out of friends than I've ever had out of family. I've had, you know, friends, you know, have my back on so many different levels and so many different ways, and it doesn't make any sense, you know. But I just kind of wanted to give you a snippet and share that with you guys. It's not too much to it, but I'll be doing a video about my transition. And about coming out to do my transition. That story is a little bit more strategic and a little bit more emotional. So I'm just going to tell you guys now, excuse me if I do break down. Excuse me if, you know, if I get really, really emotional throughout this video. But this is the reason why y'all are here, to see the real me, the inside, the out, you know, to hear how I feel, you know. Alright guys, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, and I'll be doing more videos throughout the day today. First part, my lesbian story. Second part today will be my coming out story as far as transgendering to my family. That's about it. Alright, y'all. Peace.